The Paracave Podcast, proudly brought to you by major sponsor Jack's Pale Ale, exclusively available at Parramatta Leisure Club, Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty, BTZD Clothing, and the official media partner of the Paracave Podcast, the Parramatta Times.
G'day, it's Gus Walland here from Gotcha for Life and Triple M. I'd love to invite you along to the Mental Fitness Gym. Go to the mentalfitnessgym.org. That is a place where you can pick up some exercises to build your mental fitness, to work on that emotional muscle, those muscles in your head that are so powerful. Please come and join us at the mentalfitnessgym.org for all that stuff to build your emotional muscle and your mental fitness.
Welcome to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. And now over to your host, Troy Warner, broadcasting live from the world-famous Paracave.
And yes, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. Troy Warner here, and the prelim finals, they have been run and won, and they are done and dusted, and we have our Grand Finalists for 2024. We have the two games that were played over the Friday and the Saturday. The Storm taking on the Roosters, they defeated them 48 points to 18, and also the Panthers, they defeated the Sharks 26 points to 6. So congratulations to the Melbourne Storm for getting into the grand final of 2024, and also the Penrith Panthers. Amazing effort. 5 straight grand finals, having won 3 of them. Will they do the four-peat? That is the big question. That is going to be a cracker of a grand final. The two best teams of 2024 in the regular season and throughout the finals as well. They are going to be clashing in this year's grand final decider on October 6 at Accor Stadium. So look, that is going to be one hell of a game. So there will be a grand final preview coming out later on in the week, so stay tuned for that one. But let's go through these prelim finals, and we'll start off with the Melbourne Storm taking on the Roosters down there at Amy Park in front of a crowd of 29,213. Now, it was a public holiday down in Melbourne on the Friday because on the Saturday they had the AFL Grand Final, and traditionally Melbourne has a public holiday on the Friday for the public to enjoy the AFL Grand Final parade and the like and the festivities. So Rugby League had a free hit down in Melbourne, and of course on the TV ratings as well. But so yeah, a near full house there down in Melbourne. A sea of purple it was on the TV screens. And the Roosters, they went down there. They thought they had a chance. They had it all against them, to be honest. They are well known for that impeccable record that the Storm and Panthers have against the Roosters, with the Roosters only having won one out of the last 21 games, or 20 games I think it was at that stage. So a pretty daunting record that they had it all up against them. They had a good win the week before against the Manly Sea Eagles, but this was always going to be a tough ask, and especially down in Melbourne after they had the week off after defeating the Sharks in the qualifying final in week 1 of the finals. Look, it was 8 tries to 3 to Melbourne, 7 out of 8 conversions, and 1 penalty goal to Melbourne. It was 22-6 at half time. So by the time half time rolled along, you knew it was going to be very difficult for the Roosters to get back into the game, but they almost did get back into the game. It was 24-18 at one stage, and the Roosters, they might have come back then, but then Joey Manu mistake and an Angus Crichton mistake, and then shortly after, Jerome Hughes, who had a blinder of a game, scores his third try to make it 30 points to 18, and then the Melbourne Storm just ran away with it after that, scoring another 3 tries after that. But there was a point there in that game you thought that the Roosters may come back at 24-18, but it wasn't to be. Look, the game certainly started, I should say, in sensational fashion. Lindsay Collins taking the ball up off the kickoff, and big Nelson Asofa-Solomona in with a couple of other of his teammates in a tackle on Lindsay Collins, which left him dazed and confused and concussed. To Lindsay Collins' credit, he got straight back up, but unfortunately he played the ball the wrong way. Now, it was looked at and it was seen that it was a shoulder to the head from Nelson Asofa-Solomona. Now, this has created a massive talking point among everyone in rugby league, as this game coming up is the grand final, and the Storm have made the grand final. And Nelson is looking at a 4 to 5 week suspension. He's been charged with a grade 3 dangerous high tackle, and look, he needs to get that down to a grade 1 to play. To possibly play. Now, that is going to be a really difficult task. I can't remember of anybody getting a downgrade of 2 grades to play in a game. Obviously, Cameron Smith a few years ago missed the grand final through suspension. Billy Slater, he went to the judiciary to challenge a shoulder charge, I guess you could call it. He won on that occasion. That was to play in his last ever game of rugby league. But this one is certainly going to be very difficult. Now, it has come out today that the Melbourne Storm will fight this charge against Nelson. So, look, that is a desperate plea to play in Sunday's NRL Grand Final. It was a grade 3 careless high tackle on Lindsay Collins. So, look, it would, if an early guilty plea would have seen Asofa-Solomona banned for 4 games. So, if he fights it and loses it, he'll get 5. But, look, they're going to try and get it downgraded to a grade 1. They have asked that the hearing will be on Monday, which is today, to reduce the disruption on Melbourne's preparation. So, also, Big Nelson will be in front of the judiciary in person in a bid to clear his name. Now, look, as I said, it has been caused a lot of controversy. Was it your typical big shoulder charge tackle? Probably not. It was probably a little bit of a brace, I guess. And look, Nelson's a big man. He is a big man. As Gus Gould, I think, called him once, one of the biggest humans on the planet. Certainly one of the biggest players in the NRL. But it is contact with the head, so that is probably why he has been charged with a grade 3 careless high tackle. So it was careless to the a careless high tackle charge. So he serves 10 minutes in the sin bin for that, obviously, and now he's trying to clear his name. Look, I've looked at it a few times now. I've seen it on social media. I've listened to the experts on the TV and the like, and there's a bit of divided sentiment towards Nelson about it. I think Paul Gallen has come out and said that he really feels sorry for Nelson, seeing as though it is a grand final. But I think he does think that because he has got him in the head, he's going to have a near impossible chance to get that downgraded. So only time will tell about that one. I would hate to be a player and miss out on a grand final. Nelson missed out on a previous grand final due to injury. So that's enough about that one. I'll keep you posted as to what happens with Nelson's judiciary hearing. Now, to the game. Look, completion rates, they're always important. Melbourne's 87%, the Roosters 74%. Now, to some of the stats of the game. The top tacklers in the game were Harry Grant with 37 for Melbourne, Connor Watson for 47 for the Roosters. Running meters, Cameron Munster, 185 from 20 runs. Also 2 tries late in the game. Now, he is primed for these big games, certainly, after missing a lot of the season with that groin injury. Still, he may or may not have to get surgery, whether he plays for the Kangaroos or not in the Pacific Championships. That will be decided, I guess, after the grand final. But 20 runs, 185 metres, 2 tries. Outstanding game once again from Cameron Munster. We saw that in the finals week 1, and really showing that he does have a massive running game, very important for him, and he is primed for these big games, so he will definitely can't wait for next week. For the Roosters, Daniel Tupou, 187 metres from 20 runs, 2 line breaks, 1 try, so a pretty good game from him. Look, one player who I really thought had a good game was Jack Howarth. 14 runs, 175 metres, 5 tackle breaks, 1 try. Now, if you go back and have a look at the highlights of that try, it was an absolute cracker. I think Xavier Coates catches a ball in the in-goal with his foot just over the line or on the line. 20-metre restart. He gets away, gets the ball to Ryan Pappenhausen, and then Paps gets it to Jack Howarth, who still had a lot of work to do, but ended up scoring the try, and that was at a crucial time as well, I think it was. So that was a great try. Jerome Hughes, that man I mentioned before, the likely favourite for the Dally M Player of the Year. A lot of people are suggesting that he will get that Player of the Year award. Now, he has probably, I guess, carried this team all year with the injuries to Cam Munster and Ryan Pappenhausen as well. Harry Grant with Origin. So I think he has been the key player for the Melbourne Storm this season. 3 tries, 19 tackles, 13 kicks, 380 metres. So once again, he had a wow of a game, and a lot of next week's result will hinge on Jerome Hughes. Harry Grant, now there's a funny thing going around on social media after the game with Harry just thanking the crowd, and there's a lady giving the bird to Harry Grant with both fingers, and he's just laughed at that one. So if you see that one, you'll get a laugh out of it yourself. But look, 9 runs, 41 metres, but it's not the amount of metres that he's got or the runs that he's got. It's the speed out of dummy half that he has and the vision that he has as well. 3 try assists. I think a couple of them were to Cameron Munster. But just the speed out of dummy half. He knows when to pick up the ball and run and create space for other players as well. So sometimes even picks up the ball one-handed. Now, one big difference that I did notice from both these sides was the bench of the Melbourne Storm played a combined total of 80 minutes, whereas the bench of the Roosters played a combined minutes of 145 minutes. So massive difference there. With your number one prop, with one of your starting props going off in the first minute and not coming back for the rest of the game, it does put a big I guess you could say hindrance, or not hindrance, but a big toll on your bench because they have to play more minutes, even though you do get a free interchange for that one because it was foul play. So the bench still did play big minutes. So that was a bit of a concern for the Roosters. And look, the Roosters, they got off to a good start in the game. They got a penalty goal to start off the game. Jerome Hughes escort there. So they got off to a lead of 2-0, and then they scored the first try in the game through Daniel Tupou. It was a pretty slick sort of move down the side of the field. So they were in the front 6-0. Suaalii missed the kick. Unfortunately, from that conversion, but he was able to get a penalty from that penalty goal from that escort. So it was 6-0 early to the Roosters, and they were looking good. But then Ryan Pappenhausen again scored a try in the 12th minute. It just shows you the value of having speed in your side. He broke the line and went over and scored. He got a double in that game, as did Cameron Munster, and Jerome Hughes got 3, and Jack Howarth, as I mentioned before, getting the other try in that in the Melbourne's 8 tries. So, look, a disappointing end to the season for the Roosters. A lot of players leaving from their side, as it has been talked about for a long time, and also throughout this final series. The likes of Jared Warrior-Hargreaves, who is retiring, Luke Keary, Joey Manu, Joe Suaalii, who else we got? We've got Satili Tupanua, who is off to the Bulldogs. So there is a lot of players leaving the Roosters, so it's going to cause a big headache, I guess. Although they will have players coming through the Roosters. They may also be just keeping their eye on someone, to a very key signing to play at the Roosters next year. Obviously, Sam Walker and Brandon Smith are out till mid next season, June, July, August even. So they will be missing those players as well. They've got Chad Townsend coming to the club. He will more than likely play halfback whilst Sam Walker is out. And with Luke Keary leaving, maybe Sandon Smith might go to 5'8", or Chad might even go to 5'8" as well. We'll just have to wait and see for that one. So a lot of players leaving the game. It was nice to see Craig Bellamy catch up with Big Jared after the game on the field and just say congratulations on a great career. And it was nice to see the Melbourne Storm and the Roosters give them, especially Jared and Luke Keary, a standing round of applause as they left the field. They did a guard of honour. So a disappointing way for the Roosters to finish the season. But the Melbourne Storm, they march on to next week's grand final against the winners of this next game, which is the Penrith Panthers. They defeated the Cronulla Sharks 26 points to 6. It was 4 tries to 1. 3 out of 4 conversions for the Panthers, 2 penalty goals. It was 10-2 at half-time. So, look, even though the Panthers were in front, it still could have been anybody's game. Completion rate, 79% for the Panthers, 71% for the Sharks. Look, in the end, the defence of the Sharks, that basically cost them the game. 41 missed tackles to Penrith 16. Penrith did give away 7 penalties, which at one point in the game, it did entice the Sharks. It did give them the opportunity to attack the try line, but mistakes from the Sharks and Penrith's defence held them out. In talking about Penrith's defence, Mitch Kenny, 47 tackles, Blake Brayley, 56 for the Sharks. Now, the running meters is very interesting one here. Dylan Edwards, 270 metres off 25 runs. Taruva, 202 off 21. Brian To'o, 238 off 22 plus one try. And the Panthers' most capped player in Panthers history with 244 games, Isaiah Yeo, 185, 21 runs. He also did 41 tackles in the game. Look, for the Sharks, as I mentioned, Blake Brayley, 56 tackles. Sione Katoa, 167 metres from 19 runs plus one try. And of the forwards, only Toby Rudolph got over 100 metres, 35 tackles. I think it was 131 metres in total. Now, a lot of the hopes of the Sharks were going off their halves combination, and they are probably the most important combination in a rugby league team. They are two key members of that spine, the 6 and 7. And we saw last week Braden Trindle have an absolute cracker of a game against the Cowboys. This week he probably wasn't as, I guess you could say, noticeable. Didn't really have an impact in the game as much as last week. He did kick 17 times for 505 metres. He did most of the kicking this week again, with Nicho Hynes only doing 4 kicks for 109 metres. So he did do a lot more of the kicking, but he wasn't, I guess you could say, as dominant as he was last week. Nicho Hynes, I don't like to bash any players because I don't play first grade. I never have, never will. But it just does seem like he's, for some reason, struggling at the moment. I think he did say on radio after the game that he's disappointed, obviously disappointed about the result, but he wants to go and have a bit of a break and then come back for pre-season, have a big pre-season and come back bigger and better in 2025. So just lately, I think maybe when he's come back from his injury late in the season, just hasn't been the same sort of dominant player. We saw him win the 2022 Dally M Player of the Year. There were suggestions that he maybe should be moved to fullback, but then where do you put Will Kennedy, who's a pretty reasonable player as well? Where do you put him? So what do you do now? Braden Trindle is able to negotiate after November 1 or from November 1. There's a lot of talk that he will get a upgraded contract in terms of the money that he will receive. I think he's on about 300k at the moment, but pundits are saying that he might get 5, 6, potentially 700,000 on the open market. That is, I guess, a lot of money after that one performance, but he has played a lot of football for the Sharks this season. He did have that off-field misdemeanor, but he came back bigger and better after that. He felt like he owed the team more after that, which he did, and then Nicho was out for a long time as well, so pretty much carried that team like Jerome Hughes did for the Melbourne Storm when his key players were out, his key teammates were out as well. So look, it just wasn't to be for the Sharks, unfortunately. You thought maybe they could have got back into the game at 10 points to 6 when it was 10 points to 6. There was about 20 minutes to go. A lot of errors from both sides, but it was wet conditions. There was the Sifa Talakai on report for that late shot on Jerome Luai. And look, the Mitch Kenny high tackle on Hazelton, that was purely an accident. I mean, even Ashley Klein on the field said that Hazelton was slipping, but the bunker got involved and said you had to penalise it and put him on report. But look, there'll be no dramas with Mitch Kenny. He'll be fine to play in the grand final. Sifakat Talakai was charged with the grade 1 dangerous contact, but he'll be available for Tonga, as it only is a fine for that one. And yeah, there's no charge at all for Mitch Kenny, which is a smart way to go. Look, again, a lot of mistakes. There was a no try to Taruva, so let me know about your thoughts about that one. After an obstruction from Luke Garner, Ivan Cleary in the press conference, he didn't miss, and I think that the NRL are investigating his comments in that press conference. I don't know if they'll fine him or give him a breach notice, or maybe just have a gentle phone call to say, hey, what are you doing? We'll just have to wait and see about that one, but he couldn't believe that was a no try. I mean, if that happens in the grand final? But look, Nathan Cleary, he was probably the player of the match. And the point in the match which he changed it was that 40-20 kick. That changed the match. It was practically the same spot. He did a 40-20 in the 2023 grand final against the Broncos, which also changed the game as well for the Panthers. But shortly after that kick on Saturday night, he bumps it up, I guess. He follows through with a try assist with a pass to Paul Alamotti, who was playing his first set of finals in this final series after moving from the Canterbury Bulldogs to the Penrith Panthers this season, and currently getting a start in Ivan Cleary's starting team. And that led to that was the first try of the game. But then the crossfield kick to Brian To'o, just the vision that Nathan Cleary has. It looked like at that time the play was breaking down. It was the fifth tackle. It looked like it was breaking down. The ball went, I think, left, and then it came back out to the right. Nathan Cleary's just looked up and saw that Brian To'o was way out on the right-hand side of the field, and he had that vision and just put a kick across. Brian To'o got the perfect bounce and scored. So just little things like that made him the player of the match, and made him one of Penrith's key components, a massive key component in this grand final next week against Melbourne. There was a little bit of concern late in the game. I think it was about 5 minutes towards the end of the game. Nathan Cleary grabbed at his shoulder. After the game, he said the shoulder was fine. No doubt they'll be monitoring that all week. I wonder if we'll see the hyperbaric chamber come back out. Remember that in the old days? The hyperbaric chamber. That always seemed to get a run during grand final week with injuries. And the media always around there asking the players about their injuries. But the good old hyperbaric chamber, remember that one? But look, no doubt they'll be monitoring that one all throughout the week. He said he's fine. I'm sure that could be a little bit of cat and mouse, maybe. Maybe it could be as bad or it could be very bad. I don't think it's going to keep him out of the grand final, no way. But I just think that who knows? It could be a little bit worse than what Nathan is saying. It could be totally fine. No doubt he'll probably have it needled up in before the game, maybe during the game as well. It just depends. It could have just been a bit of a knock on the shoulder, but we'll just have to wait and see, but he'll definitely play. So no worries about that, Panther fans. You'll have him playing. But look, after that Brian Toto try, Alamotti, he scored his second try, and look, that probably broke the Sharks when it was converted to make it 20-6. It was getting away from them then, and then more errors from the Sharks, and Liam Martin, he sealed it with the try. 3 minutes to go, and then after it was converted, made it 26-6. So Liam Martin, he went off the field early with a HIA. Fortunately, he was able to come back and scored the match-sealing try. So, look, a disappointing way, obviously, for the Sharks to sit out this season. They have gone one better than previous years, having made it to the prelim final instead of just week 2 exits. So, look, they can be proud of that season, that they did get further than what they have before, but obviously they'll be disappointed that they didn't go to the grand final. A lot of things for them to work on throughout the pre-season. And I guess with Nico Hines, he'll be getting a big pre-season on. Get some time, have some time off, get away from football, do what he likes to do, go surfing. Look, he does great stuff in the community as well that we have seen. But yeah, get some time, rest up, Nico, and come back bigger and better next year. For the Panthers, they move on to their 5th straight grand final. An absolutely amazing achievement. Having played their first one back there of this streak anyway, back in 2020 against this week's opponents, the Melbourne Storm, in which they lost that game, and then they went on to win the next 3. They are going for their 4th straight premiership, an amazing feat in this day and age of the salary cap and NRL. The last team to make 5 grand finals, I believe, was the South Sydney Rabbitohs. That was in 1971, so a long time before teams have made 5 grand finals. So it just shows you how good this team is. Can they go the 4 premierships in a row? That will be a massive question. A grand final preview will be coming out later on in the week. Hopefully I can get some special guests to come on and have a chat about the game as well. So look, there's a review of the prelim finals. I hope you enjoyed that one. The Storm defeating the Roosters and the Panthers defeating the Sharks. And we look forward to next week's grand final as well. Look, don't forget also the NRLW grand final next week as well. There'll be a review and a preview of that one coming out shortly this week as well with a special guest, so stay tuned for that one. But that grand final has been decided with the Sharks upsetting the Brisbane Broncos 14 points to 0, and the Sydney Roosters getting the job done over the Cronulla, sorry, not the Cronulla Sharks, what am I talking about? The Roosters getting the job done over 2-time premiers, the Newcastle Knights, 25 points to 16. So we'll have a preview and a review of those games coming up during the week, and a preview of the grand final between the Roosters and the Cronulla Sharks as well. Thank you very much for listening. If you like this one, please provide a 5-star rating and review on the podcast platform that you listen to. Share it with your family and friends. Also give the Instagram and Facebook pages a follow as well. Thank you very much. Enjoy grand final week. As a rugby league fan, it's always even better if your team's in the grand final, but still, it is grand final week, so enjoy it. A lot of festivities going on throughout the week, open training sessions at the Panthers and the Storm. There is the NRL, what do they call it, Superfest, I think it is, FanFest, happening on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, I think. So keep your eyes on socials for that one. So a lot of activities going on there as well. Thank you very much for listening. And look, as you all know, they aren't playing in this grand final. It was 2 years ago that they played in a grand final. Hopefully I don't have to wait 2 years again, but go Para!
Hello, Paracave podcast listeners. My name is Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty and long-term sponsor of the Paracave podcast. If you're looking to sell your property or buy, or just curious to know what your property is worth in today's market, give me a call today on 0421 588 445.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Paracave Podcast. See you next time.